Hey guys, Braden here at the Airless Quill 9 channel. Um, Wiz- Wizards of the Coast just released a video on the new Paladin that'll be showcased, or that'll be shown in the 2024 Player's Handbook. So we're going to give the video a watch, and I'll give you my thoughts as we watch the video.
One of the things you'll notice as a Paladin player immediately when
Make sure. Yep, we're good.
you see the new player's handbook is that your spellcasting has moved from level 2 to level 1. And so you will.
Okay, I know that this is something that they're doing for all the half-casters. So the Paladin and the Rogue will be like this now, and I think this is just to put it in the same design as the Artificer, because the Artificer had spellcasting starting at level 1, even though the Artificer is not in this book for whatever reason WotC wants to give. So I do enjoy that the spellcasting feature is at level 1 because it will give all half-casters a lot more versatility starting at first level, including the Paladin here.
You will begin being able to cast spells right away. And this also has a carry-on effect for multiclassing, that if you multiclass now, you will get more slots out of the Paladin part of your multiclass mix than you did before. And when we talk about the Ranger, we'll see that a similar thing happened there. We did this because we wanted Paladin players to start learning how to use their spells right away, because spells are a key part of the Paladin's kit. And having it at second level before meant you were waiting to learn how to use one of the most important parts of your class. So now there's no wait. You start right away at first level learning some spells, which you'll then need to know all about when you get to level 2 and you start doing Divine Smite.
Yeah.
At level 1, you don't just get spellcasting now, though. You still get Lay on Hands, that iconic ability that Paladins have to heal themselves and others. And you also get Weapon Mastery.
They didn't state, but I wonder if Lay on Hands is going to be a bonus action like it was in the playtest material.
And so that means that Paladins too are going to get to play with all of the fun that Weapon Mastery brings to any of our classes focused on
That's
weapon use.
expected.
Now, when you get to then level 2, there's more new stuff waiting for you. And at first, you might look at the class feature table for the Paladin and see, oh, fighting style, I had that before. There's actually a lot of change hiding in there, good updates for the Paladin, because now when you choose your fighting style as a Paladin, you are no longer restricted to a curated list like the Paladin was in 2014. You
I'll let them continue.
now have access to the full fighting style list that fighters also have access to.
Okay, interesting.
Okay, so that's opening up all the fighting styles to the Paladin as well, so there we'll have a lot more versatility in combat. They can choose fighting styles. So that means you could potentially have a Paladin that has the archery fighting style, so I wonder if Divine Smite can be used on range attacks. Maybe they'll make a comment on that.
And you also have the option to forego choosing any of those and instead learning some cleric cantrips.
Oh, okay.
So if you decide that you'd rather be more of a spell hurling paladin rather than leaning harder into your weapon use, you now have that option in the fighting style feature at level 2.
Okay.
That's not a surprise to me because Tasha's had the was it the Divine Warrior or the Blessed Warrior fighting style for Paladin that they added in there so that they could take some cleric cantrips. So yeah, that completely makes sense. They added that option in there.
This is a part of a theme of us providing more customization options where it made sense in each of the classes. You also now get a feature called
Good.
Paladin's Smite. This was called Divine Smite in 2014.
Okay.
It's now called Paladin's Smite because it actually now gives you two things. In 2014, this feature allowed you to the class's iconic Divine Smite ability, where you burn a spell slot and deal a bucket load of extra damage to a target you just hit. Divine Smite still does that. Divine Smite, though, has now been packaged as a spell. And then the Paladin Smite feature, in addition to giving you that spell and allowing you to always have it prepared, also now lets you cast Divine Smite once per day without burning a spell slot. So what that means is Paladins now every day get a freebie Divine Smite. And so that's going to relieve a little bit some of the pressure on their spell slots. We did this so that Paladins could certainly just use all their spell slots to cast Divine Smite, but we also wanted to make it just a bit easier for Paladins to cast some of their other spells if they so choose.
Okay, so what that tells me is that Divine Smite is probably going to be a bonus action to cast, and you'll have to maintain concentration on it. So it's going to be more in line with other Smite spells. So that means that you're only going to be able to use Divine Smite once per turn, which is fine for me. I've always seen Paladin as a powerhouse, particularly because of Divine Smite. So this just kind of brings it back within the range of the other martial classes. I mean, if they're going to turn Divine Smite into a spell slot, it's good that they gave us a free casting of it. That's kind of them. So that will definitely free things up. I'm okay with those changes. I'm glad they at least gave you the once per day free casting of it.
Perfect.
Now, when we get to level 3, where you pick your subclass, you also get Channel Divinity. And here, there's a really nice upgrade for Paladins in terms of the number of uses of Channel Divinity they get. It used to be that a Paladin got exactly one use of Channel Divinity, and then that was restored upon taking a short or a long rest. Now, you get 2 uses to start, and every time you take a short rest, you get 1 use back, and then when you take a long rest, you get all your uses back. But then even better, that 2 turns into a 3 when you hit level 11. So you're going to be able to use your Channel Divinity far more often than you could before. We've also taken the Divine Sense feature that Paladins used to have and turned it into a Channel Divinity option. And in the process, we've also made it last quite a bit longer. So if you do decide to use Divine Sense, rather than it lasting only 1 round, which was how long it lasted in 2014, it now is going to last 10 minutes. And we increased its duration, not only because you're now using your Channel Divinity on it, but also to make it easier to use, particularly in social interaction and exploration scenes. You know, the classic circumstance of the Paladin is at the Queen's Ball and is trying to figure out which of these partygoers is actually a demon or an undead in disguise.
Right.
This longer duration will allow the Paladin to get a bit more bang for their buck when they decide to use Divine Sense. We also at level 5.
Okay, so I do like those changes to Channel Divinity. It's good that they gave us more options and that get one back on a short rest and all the back on a long rest. That at least gives you a lot more versatility with Channel Divinity than you did in the 2014 Paladin class. I think Divine Sense makes sense as a Channel Divinity option. Nice that they increased the duration because of that. I'm wondering if that's just the base option, if that's the only base option you get, and then the additional options you get are from subclasses. That's the only one he mentioned, so that might be the case. But yeah, I'm happy with what they did with Channel Divinity. Sounds like
have made it so that all paladins now get the Find Steed spell for free. They always have it prepared,
cool.
And they can cast it once per day without expending a spell slot.
Also cool.
Find Steed is an iconic paladin spell, and we decided we did not want a paladin to have to use up one of their spell preparation slots on that spell.
Right.
And
I'll be honest, I haven't had a D&D campaign where a paladin is Find Steed spell. That might just be my campaigns. At least it's an option.
we also wanted you to be able to use it at least once per day without having to use one of your precious few slots, since paladins and rangers do have fewer spell slots than many of our other spellcasters.
They do.
And then on top of that, the Find Steed spell has been completely redesigned for the paladin so that the steed can now get more powerful depending on the level of the spell slot you cast the spell. And the steed is now not reliant on particular animal stat blocks, but instead has a stat block all its own, specially
like
designed
the
for the paladin. So you really feel like you are summoning this otherworldly creature that isn't just a horse or some other creature that you're riding around on, but is this otherworldly being that is there to work with you really as a companion, as this faithful companion there to assist the paladin and the paladin's friends.
That's amazing.
I am hoping that with this change, many paladins will feel more empowered to have these really cool companions present on their adventures.
And that's, again, living out that fantasy. And
yeah, I do think that's a good thing, especially as an option for the paladin. It's cool that they can just summon a horse-like creature, whatever they want that steed to look like. Also nice that it will potentially scale based on the level that you cast it at. And you can cast it once for free, which is always great.
honing in on that wish fulfillment of wanting to smite more and also getting that steed like sooner and easier.
Absolutely. We also have in the core class given all paladins a new feature called Abjure Foes, and this gives all paladins a juicy use for their channel divinity. A number of our paladin subclasses in the past had a channel divinity option that was very similar to Abjure Foes, but it was sort of slightly changed in a number of the subclasses. We decided to take those variants, create a universal version that all paladins are happy to have, and now built it into the base class.
Okay.
We also did some under-the-hood work on the paladin's aura.
Okay. They didn't tell us what Abjure Foes does, but I'm assuming it's kind of like a turn undead thing, but not specifically undead. It probably has a number of different creature types it affects.
Partly by turning it into a single aura that gains additional abilities.
That's
previously
gonna be easy to track.
Paladin, and particularly based on whatever subclass you ended up picking, would end up having multiple different auras, some of them with different radii.
Yeah.
And it could start getting quite confusing keeping track of like all of your different auras and how big is this one versus that one.
Yeah.
So we sort of cleaned up the whole aura game for paladins by, in the base class and then also in the subclasses that are in this book, all of the auras that used to be different auras before are now all one aura that simply gains new functionality. So it's going to be far easier for the paladin to keep track of what's going on.
That's a
because
good
the paladin now has
quality of
just
life
one
change.
aura that just gains cool new features as the paladin goes up in level. The aura also makes use of a new type of area of effect that we've introduced in the new player's handbook. And it is an area of effect that has been in the game for the last 10 years, but didn't have a name. And we decided to finally give it a name. And I'm bringing it up now while talking about the paladin, because it's specifically for things like auras and other effects that emanate outward from a particular creature or object. And so this area of effect is called the emanation. We've seen it all over the place in 5th edition over the last 10 years. Basically, anytime you read a feature or a monster ability or a spell that talked about creatures within a certain radius being affected by something, that was basically an emanation. It just wasn't called that.
Yeah.
So we have now given that area of effect a name and given it its own definition, just as the other areas of effect in our system have definitions. And you can now find all of those definitions in the Player's Handbook's rules glossary. One other thing in the Paladin that I wanted to chat about, because this is the first of the spellcasting classes that we have talked about, is the new approach to spell lists. So each spellcasting class now has its spell list inside the class description. So rather than making a paladin or a ranger or a warlock or another
all the way back to the...
Now we don't have to look at the spells chapter to figure out what spells the class has available.
The end of the book.
Instead, it's right there in the class description. But in addition to that, we have worked to make spell lists that's in your class more useful for you. And we've done that by not only giving you all the spells by name, but also every spell's school of magic is listed. We also tell you if the spell on your list requires concentration. We also tell you if it's a ritual. And we also tell you if it has a specific component that you must have to cast the spell. So in those cases, when a component has a specific cost or the spell consumes the component, you must have that component to cast that spell. And so we now tell you in your class spell list if the spell has a required component, so that you now have sort of one-stop shopping for your spells, and you can see at a glance what the spell school of magic is, if it requires concentration, if it's a ritual, and if it has a specific component you must have to cast it.
This is all meant for, you're a player and you play paladins or warlocks. You have less pages you need to traverse to understand what you have and what you need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The paladin subclasses have all received some fun updates, starting...
Okay, now we're going to talk about the subclasses. So, based on what he talked about there, I think the base class sounds pretty good. Divine Smite, the only thing is that Divine Smite is not as powerful as it used to be, which I expected them to do. So, they gave updates in other regions and made certain features better and added new features so that the class is more diverse. So yeah, I'm happy with what they've said so far.
With the Oath of Devotion.
Yeah, let's start with the Oath of Devotion. What is new here?
One of the biggies right away is the Oath of Devotion can now activate their Sacred Weapon feature as
a
part
bonus
of
action?
the attack action rather than sacking their entire action to do it.
Yeah.
In the past, it was so punishing to have to use your entire action to activate it that many Paladin players just decided not to use it. Now, as a part of attacking, you can simply decide, I'm going to activate this. We have also
not even a
replaced
bonus
in the Oath
action.
of Devotion
That's
the
huge.
feature that was previously called Purity of Spirit with a new feature called Smite of Protection. And what this now does is when you use your Divine Smite, because the Oath of Devotion Paladin is the classic knight in shining armor who is there to protect others, it now means that when you use Divine Smite, you and your allies in your aura of protection have half cover for a limited time. So you have this magical protection that gives you the full benefits of half cover, even if you're standing out in the open, as long as your friends are in that aura of protection. And so this gives a nice feeling of being a guardian, even when you're blasting your foes with Divine Smite. We've also made it so that the level 20 ability, Holy Nimbus, is now usable as a bonus action instead of an action, because we want you to be able to activate it and then keep going on your turn, rather than essentially spending an entire turn getting ready to do something. And there are a number of places in the player's handbook where abilities that really are just turning on a state have often now been changed from being an action to a bonus action, or in some cases, like with Sacred Weapon in Oath of Devotion, don't require an action or a bonus action at all, and instead are absorbed into another action. Because again, in many cases, we want you to get to the fun faster. The Oath of Devotion is joined by the Oath of Glory. This, for me, is often the paladin who, if they were in a movie, would look at the camera, have impossibly white teeth with a little sparkle on them as they smile. The Oath of Glory appeared previously in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, as well as in Mythic Odysseys of Theros.
Yeah, that's where it first came from.
And it has evolved a bit on its way to the player's handbook. And two of the main...
So what they've said about Oath of Devotion sounds good. I suspect that the Oath of Devotion no longer has the feature where everyone in the aura has resistance to damage from spells. I couldn't tell. It sounded like the feature he was talking about with smiting, giving half-covered creatures in the aura. That's probably what they replaced it with. I thought for a moment that it was a Channel Divinity option. I mean, it could be, but it wasn't really clear when he said that. But Holy Nimbus being a bonus action is great change. Just makes it a lot easier to use the options that they give you. And honestly, I am super surprised that Sacred Weapon is part of the attack to activate rather than a bonus action. I thought they were going to change it to a bonus action, but that's huge. That's really cool.
Evolutions that I think are worth talking about here. One is the Peerless Athlete feature now lasts for an hour rather than 10 minutes.
Oh, that's good.
This feature is especially useful in exploration contexts.
Exactly, yeah.
And so we wanted it to be more useful in that pillar of adventure.
That's a good change.
The other big change is to Aura of Alacrity. The new feature here is that it not only benefits your allies who start their turn in your aura of protection, but also if they enter that aura on their turn. This is a really major change because before, the Aura of Alacrity, which speeds you and your allies up, it's all about, the Paladin allowing you all to charge forward into battle or some other situation more quickly. The way it was designed before, it was actually extremely difficult sometimes for it to even do anything for your friends because they had to time it so that they started their turn in your aura, which can actually be more complicated than it sounds when everyone is taking turns in a particular order. This change now means that no matter when a person's turn is relative to the Paladins, and no matter where they are on the battlefield, as long as they make sure to pass through the aura on their turn, they will suddenly get the speed boost.
That's super helpful. Otherwise, really weird on the battlefield.
Yes, where it's sort of, you can have a
Aura of Alacrity is going to have a lot of applications now in combat there.
Whole lot of hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
One other thing I would love to mention about Oath of Glory that relates actually to all of the Paladin subclasses is that we have vetted their Oath spell lists in each subclass. And so players are going to see, not only in the Oath spell list, but also when you get to the Cleric, the Domain spell list, and in the Warlock, the Patron spell list. All of these lists have been vetted and in many cases updated with different spell options. I'm thinking of this now while we're talking about the Oath of Glory, particularly because the Oath of Glory list in getting updated even includes a brand new spell appearing in this player's handbook for the first time. When you reach level 17 as a Paladin, and if you have the Oath of Glory subclass, you get a brand new spell in the game called Yolan's Regal Presence. And this is a spell created by the Queen of the Elves in the world of Greyhawk. And it allows the Paladin and anyone else who casts the spell to, as it says in the name, have an extraordinarily regal presence that will cause people to fall down on their knees and also potentially take psychic damage from just how glorious you are. But I wanted to bring that up because I hope everyone will take time, when they come to their favorite subclass, if it's a subclass that had a little spell list, take a look at that list, because you're going to find often that not only have some of the spells been swapped, one spell for another, but sometimes the new spell that's on the list is a brand new spell for the game.
Perfect. So we have the Oath of the Ancients Paladin. This is one of my favorites. It feels like the Green Knight. It's a very unique feel from any other class or subclass.
And when we created the Oath of the Ancients, originally for the 2014 Player's Handbook, it really was in answer to the question, what would a paladin look like who had been a part of elven culture or, another culture that maybe is less sort of knight in shining armor, but still, would have these noble oaths and have a lot of the dedication that we associate with paladins, but again, more of a nature or or druidic or elven aesthetic. And so the answer to that was the Oath of the Ancients. The art for it is wonderful, as is the art for all of the subclasses in the book. And we have made some enhancements to the Oath as it has migrated into the new Player's Handbook. One of those is that the subclass's Aura of Warding at level 7 now just straight up gives people in your aura resistance to necrotic, psychic, and radiant damage. Because this paladin is all about protecting people from, in some cases, foes from beyond.
I can't remember off the top of my head. This might be the aura that had the resistance to spell damage, so they have changed it. They have nerfed it.
And so that's why their aura now will protect you from the magic of, necrosis, which we associated with the negative energy plane, radiant damage, which is from the positive energy plane, and then psychic damage, which we often associate with the far realm.
And radiant damage can feel also very creepy. It doesn't have to feel like celestial and happy and good. This can also be something, this can feel like radioactive.
Exactly.
So it's not always a benevolent or natural source.
Exactly. Just as necrotic damage is not always malevolent.
Right.
Because death can be a...
Okay, yes. Oath of the Ancients had the aura that protected you and allies from, gave resistance to damage from spells. The Devotion one made you and allies within the aura immune to the charm condition. Okay, so Aura Devotion basically got a buff because if I had to guess, the Charmed condition is going to be pulled into the base aura, along with the Frightened condition when they get the Aura of Courage. Will probably be an upgrade. So yeah, they did nerf the Aura of Warding from the Oath of Ancients, but I honestly expected them to do that. I'm fine with it just giving it some damage. Okay.
I mean, it is a natural part of the world. Also, in the subclass, we have increased the range of the subclass's Nature's Wrath ability, which is their entanglement ability. Yeah. So if you love playing an Oath of the Ancients Paladin and tangling people up in roots, well, now you can do that even easier because the range of that ability has been extended. We have also, in the subclass's Undying Sentinel ability, made it so that if you pop back from 0, you don't pop back with just 1 hit point. Yeah. And just as we did in the Barbarian, you now pop back with a bunch of hit points so that you don't get knocked down immediately after you popped back up.
Perfect.
Those are the main changes here, and really just our effort to make this great subclass just even better at the fun stuff it was already doing.
I love that even the subclasses that are very tried and true are still getting, a facelift, an upgrade, getting something extra to do.
And that is true of every subclass in the book, that no matter how solid it was, it's getting some new upgrade. And so that leaves us then with the Oath of Vengeance. This was another subclass that was super solid, but still has some fun new toys within it. One of the biggies, because it affects the subclass's most iconic ability, its Vow of Enmity, is you no longer have to use your bonus action to activate your Vow of Enmity.
Oh, you don't?
This you can now use simply as a part of the attack action.
Wow.
And we've also made it so that if the target of your Vow of Enmity perishes, you now have a window of time where you can transfer it to somebody else. Because it used to be that you would place it on somebody, and if they got felled quickly enough, it's like, well,
I guess that's done. Or someone else kills them,
And so now, similar to how Hunter's Mark functions, where you can move that spell around, you can now also move around your Vow of Enmity. At level 20, with their Avenging Angel ability, we've made 2 major enhancements. One of them is you can now activate it as a bonus action instead of an action.
Thank you.
And it lasts for an entire hour. And we did this because this feature includes flight, and we wanted the Oath of Vengeance Paladin to be able to use that flight to pursue somebody. And so watch out.
Go right into evil Superman mode and hunt them down. The new Player's Handbook is available for pre-order right now on D&D Beyond. You can find that link in the video description. And you can also find the new
Okay, well, I am happy with a bunch of the changes they mentioned. I understand some of the nerfs that they did. I know some people will not be happy with those, but it sounds like they generally improved the class as a whole. And it sounds like they made some great improvements to the subclasses. I mean, changing Sacred Weapon and Vow of Enmity to be a part of the attack is crazy. That is a amazing change. I'm honestly surprised that they did that. And then the fact that you can move Aura of Enmity when the creature dies, so you don't have to spend another channel divinity. Paladin's gonna be fun. Paladin will be fun in this player's handbook. And I'm excited to see some of the new spells that they mentioned as well. My only concern is I'm almost certain it does, but I hope to God that Divine Smite can be upcasted. If it can't, that's going to be a major nerf. And I don't know. There's a lot to think about there. Sounds like a bunch of good changes. I approve. That's gonna be it for the video today. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts and concerns, and I will catch you on the next video. I think the next video will be tomorrow, and it's gonna be about the barbarians. So I'll see you in the next video. Peace.